Welcome to DisNewsYouKNow podcast, episode 5. My name's Marlon and I own this hang-up, so we talk about disruptive news in the UK to explore the straws and give it opinion. Although the news sites out there for disruptive news, disabled people news that affects our lives is underreported, and generally, as many of us already know, we're underrepresented in the media. So the end of this podcast is an effort to try and address the balance. The story I want to focus on is the U-turn, kind of whatever you call it, by the government last week. And the government added some concessions to its welfare bill. Only that bit, but what is being built is the creation of a two-tier benefit system that basically none of the additions and changes that they were kind of thinking for claimants are going to apply. Only at present suggesting 2 new claimants, which obviously is still anchored. MPs and people largely in the community, because obviously that creates the creation of a 2-tier system on each. Still, but does that people saying sport with bugs of like sport that they any would rely on? Risk. They're going to sessions with the original God's plan to people. It's looking like it will only affect new claimants, and that the idea that they were going to freeze their health component of universal credit that will stay in place and rise up the inflation. Used as well outline in terms of a new review of assessment, which is meant to be conducted in collaboration with disabled people. The regulation basically means that people receive health disability benefits will try out work without fear of a free assessment. Yeah, makes me very skeptical about it remains to be seen whether these concessions are enough to get for Labour to win over Rebels and win the vote on Tuesday this week. But to be honest, there's no. Yes, it's a small victory, but it's still not enough, and it's still the spectre that somewhere down the line they'll find a way to bring a new regime of cuts. It just seems the benefits, the welfare bill, and the plan to slash spending and to transform welfare benefits, i.e. reduction of spending. I don't think that's going away anytime soon, fortunately. And it's desperate thousand cuts really in terms of the fight for financial support. In terms of welfare, I think that it will come through in some shape or form down the line if they don't do it now. It's all over treating for them, but Ben just knows for the government to win the vote. Well, I see, to be honest, it's people are right. It's going to create a 2-tier system, and several people will receiving benefits already living on poverty line. So once this new system goes through for new claimants, then you still won't store the same numbers, or you're pushing people further into poverty. It's just like pushing perhaps the same amount, but further down the line they'll come for the old claimants, and they'll remodel and they'll repurpose people. And universal credit, ESA, whatever they want to call it these days, they'll create a new benefit and they'll revamp it, and they'll get their wish, which is to cut the bill further down, which is totally in part. Because reality is there's no mechanisms to really address the elephant in the room, which is the disabled people that are the vast majority that are able to work, if they could, are not catered for. Access to work has been absolutely decimated over the past 14 years. So, and until they seriously revamp the system, and there's a cultural shift in society in general in terms of accessibility and flexible working patterns, the employers in general understanding more about disabled people's capabilities in work and shaping work around getting the idea of work and how work. Nothing more change. I mean, even the fact that obviously due to the pandemic we had a lot of people working from home, but even that seems like a sin these days. They're very quickly being around in terms of how fun overall in the country, the idea of now working from home has been totally decried as an attempt to be less productive. You've got employees being absolutely shamed for work from home as if somehow there's no indication of employers tracking productivity. So even that little possibility that the culture of work was shifting in terms of what more flexibility for employees, which was a bit window for disabled people that needed, that who could work but needed a more pragmatic approach to suit them. That seems to have power deal in itself seems to have been shut down. So I don't really see where this goes other than a system that just traps more disabled people in absolute poverty. The idea is a bit, you're never going to solve the welfare crisis until governments, employers, education, holistically the whole picture, people rethink the whole idea of work and education, and link between qualifications for qualifications' sake, and create a real link between what modern employers need skills-wise and how education is providing people with those skills, because that has been broken for a very long time. It's been, and that's before we even talk about disability per se. I mean, this is a gender part of this, the lightning rod of this argument. This particular occasion around the NFL bills was an attack on, well, why read as an attack on young people? Because since the pandemic, figures of unemployment for young people and payments of disability benefits within young people, but according to their statistics has risen unfold, and there's so many young people that are in unemployment, but they forget the psychological effects of the pandemic on many aspects for young people. A lot of people, whether it's in education, finishing education up to 18 or university, and that's stored, and the fact that exams were delayed, etc. and so forth, and then the psychological gap of then getting back to work and stuff. And the fact that before then we had a massive unemployment issue for young people trying to find work, and particularly full-time work and consistent work, and for the gig economy, etc. and so forth, and that only got worse. The after effects of the pandemic. So that was problems alongside. So you had the pandemic to that, and to the financial fallout for everybody internationally, and I don't know quite what people expect. They took away EMA, they tripled tuition fees. You've got a graduate culture where degrees don't match up with the needs of employers, so there's a high rate of unemployment with quite a few graduates. They've just been a systematic problem for years, and then you then blame young people and they end up unwell and burnt out. I mean, burnt out is in psychologically bereft and bereft of purpose and meaning. Well, it doesn't seem to have a place. Obviously, I'm generalising, but if we're talking about the disposed group, that's the year of people that claim that they're claiming too many benefits and mental health has become a massive issue, or that would be why. And then you look at work culture in general, hustle culture, because obviously economic standards are falling, etc. and so forth. We've never really recovered from 2008, post-2008. Energy crisis, that's 3 years, cost of living crisis, etc. and so forth. There's been a cost of living crisis spicy since post-2008. No one's really recovered from that one. Not the average working person has recovered from that, and then you wonder why people burn out and end up with health problems, because they're literally living to work, not working to live. So you add all the thing up, then it's a very simplistic argument, but is any wonder that we have an indicted welfare system? None of that even takes account people with long-term disabilities and lifelong disabilities, so I'm not even discussing that group. We just talk about the wider economic factors that have affected this country in the last 15 or so years, and impacts that. That's 15, 16, 17 years, and impacts that. So until government, employees, society in general rethinks the idea of work and better economic strategy and employment strategy, and comes is education and what skills young people coming out of school and university, if they even need to go to university, into whipping back apprenticeships and trades and such and so forth, and we think apprenticeships in other industries as well, and all that is done. I don't think that anything that they do with welfare legislation will do anything more than push people further into poverty. Anyway, that's my rambling rant, and I'll come back later with a bit more distinct argument, but I just thought I need to really say that. But thanks for listening.